Hello, welcome to 15 minutes of consulting best practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and as you can see, David is not here with us today either. He's out on semi-vacation this week. We miss him. He'll be back next week with us. For those of you who are familiar with the space, drop a line, say hello, or post your questions. For those of you who are new, welcome. This is a space where we answer your questions about your consulting firm to help you grow and improve how your practice delights you and delights your clients as well. All right. Having said that, you're welcome to post comments, give your insights on any question that we answer, as well as to ask questions of your own. Hello, Philippe. Thank you for joining us. All right. Jaren, as the questions start to come in, would you please share the first question that was sent via the inbox? Thank you. Right, so this question is from Matt. How many industries can I highlight my expertise in at once? Oh, how about building visibility? All right, Matt, thank you for your question. And a question we get pretty frequently, because as most of you know, if you know us, we're advocates for deep expertise. We know that accelerates how you can get more consulting projects when the client can trust that you've solved their problem before and that you've seen their problem and solved it for somebody who looks exactly like them, right? So how many industries can you highlight? You can highlight as many as you want. It's not convenient for you necessarily to highlight more than one at a time. The exception for this is boutique firms. So we say typically a practice area is about $3 million. So think your first $3 million in revenue, or every vertical, once you reach to $3 million in annual revenue, then you can start adding another area that you highlight for expertise. Now, you ask a question about building visibility. So there's a difference between doing research, gaining insight, and gaining knowledge in multiple industries, and looking to become known as an expert in them. The one area of expertise for every $3 million kind of rule of thumb, if you will, applies to visibility building, right? How you introduce yourself, how you introduce your firm. All right, Matt, let us know if that question was helpful. And Preston, you're saying equipment health monitoring and reliability service for process industries. All right, let me know if you have a question tied to that. Thank you for sharing. And hello, Shankar. Good morning as well. All right, send your questions as you have them. Jaren, if you can, please share the second question that was sent. Thank you. All right, this is a long question from Jeff. Jeff says, my approach has been to reconnect with my network via lunch, coffee, or in-person meetings. It's really reactivated my long-standing contacts. Congratulations. And it has been fun. Right, awesome. However, it's taking me hours every week to connect, and it's taking a toll. How can I transition people who are now used to in-person meetings with me to a call or virtual meeting without making them feel they're not as important to me? All right, Jeff, thank you for your question. So virtual versus in person, right? Each has their advantages. And as you have seen, Jeff, and congratulations, this has being in person has allowed you to reactivate your network, which is phenomenal. Now, being in person is also pretty expensive when you think about it, right? Because you have to take into account the time it takes you to go and come forth, and the meetings. I imagine it's hard to keep to a timeline and all of that. So all the richness comes as a trade-off to having too many, which is the problem you now have. So we want to switch people as much as we can to Zoom meetings or to Teams or to a phone call, depending on what they're. And a couple of strategies for that. One is talk about how it is impactful and it is fun and it is interesting and it builds value to be able to meet recurrently in the context of your calendars being busy. So you can say, look, can we do our next one via phone or via Zoom so that we can do it in, say, 3 months and not have to wait 6 to 9 months until our calendars line up. Are you open to that? Most people will end up answering yes to that question, right? Most people will say, sure, let's do the next one via Zoom or via Teams. And there you've made a switch. Another alternative, as you start setting up your recurring meetings, advocate for having those be set up so you can connect via phone or via Zoom. And you don't need to have recurring meetings that are an hour or an hour and a half long. You can have a 20-minute, 30-minute, 15-minute catch-up meeting, which is what you want and you need to keep that connection alive and to keep your nurturing alive. It's so much easier for everybody. And you're right, Mike, and thank you for sharing that. It is expensive for the other person as well. So their time is valuable and you're putting that up front, right? Calendars are hard to coordinate. You want value out of the conversation? You can do it via phone or via Zoom. The one exception I would consider is if you know somebody is really against meeting in that sort of form. That's the exception and not the rule. For everybody else, and nowadays, gratefully, is the majority of folks, you can think of migrating them to a phone or Zoom regular connection, short touch points on a recurring basis. And there you have it. So hopefully that helps, Jeff. Let me know how it goes. Your calendar should clear up so that you can continue building your network. Okay. Jaren, can you please share the next question that was submitted? Okay. Eddie says, I'm new to having a business development responsibility in my firm. So for most of my contacts, especially the decision makers, there's someone more senior who's the main relationship holder. Who do I connect with? All right. Thank you, Eddie, for submitting the question. And this is a very interesting one, and one we get asked relatively often, particularly from folks who are moving forward, growing, young in their consulting careers, and growing in their firms that want to build their network. So congratulations, Eddie, on being purposeful and thoughtful about how to build that. A couple of elements to take into account, and we have whole modules we teach firms about this. So I'm going to give you the cliff notes, if you will, right? The first one is we will ideally have every contact that it's a high potential contact for your firm be in the network core of more than one of you. Now, the trick here is there's one owner per relationship. In your case, Eddie, the owner is the most senior person who probably has the closest relationship with the content, right? But that person remains in your network core because we do want you to continue to reach out, to nurture your relationship with all these people, and to grow your relationship with all these people, right? So keyword here is one owner and coordinate with the owner of their relationship. The second element here is you create relationships with folks who are going to become decision makers in the future. So as they advance in their careers, they're already part of your network. And then they can become part of your network core as they become decision makers. So create those relationships, nurture them, be a sounding board for them, and enhance that trust that starts to exist when you work together in large organizations or when you meet people in large organizations. And third, make sure your firm has a plan to hand off relationships every year, right? So you can build new contacts, you can lead current contacts where the most senior person at your firm is what we call going fishing, right? Creating new contacts in new clients that are new to your firm, and you inherit their relationships and now you become the owner. So make sure you set up a plan for how to hand off relationships that makes sense and it's right set up. It's focused on them, on your prospects, on your clients, and on the value that you give them as you create relationships with them. All right, hopefully that helps. Jaren, can we see the next one, please? Thank you. Okay, so this question is from Parag. If the premise is that trust helps you command higher fees for your work, oh, I love this question already. How do you accomplish that in a first project with a client who doesn't know you? All right, so Parag, you're asking about building relationships with a client that doesn't know you, and you're looking to build trust so that you can command higher fees. Again, this is one area in which we have a whole module that we can share with all of you, and it's very dear to our hearts, right? So first and foremost, and it should bear without saying, but if you want to build trust, be trustworthy. Build someone they can trust and rely on. And that means a lot of things. You keep your commitments big and small, you follow up when you promise to, you deliver high quality, and you actually share and give value generously, right? So be trustworthy, be somebody they can trust. I have two possible reads for this question. So perhaps the most likely one is the one around fees, right? That you're focusing on fees, or your question being centered in fees. And in reality, what we know is that higher fees actually help build trust. So long as your fees are within their range of normalcy, and they're not so high that they're out of range for most folks, or what they would consider disproportionate, higher fees also tell folks, look, you have an expertise, you know what you're doing, and you're not afraid to put the fees that you should command in front of them, and you can probably justify them. So think about higher fees as a value add and not necessarily as a value detractor. An example, from our work with platforms, we know that contrary to what consultants think, when clients go to platforms and look for expertise in platforms, they're looking for primarily two things. One, responsiveness. So people who are really interested can be responsive, can be trustworthy in their responsiveness. And two, more importantly, they're looking for somebody who has solved exactly their problem. Fees came, I want to say, fifth in the list of considerations, trailing far behind. Of course, outliers, right? Too low a fees, this person is thinking about a different project. Too high a fees, this person is clearly out of range. But if you are within a reasonable range, fees were not in consideration. So keep that in mind if that's the intent of your question, right? A second thought came to my mind, which is putting more emphasis on the fact that people don't know you, right? And we have situations in which consultants are subcontracting for a firm who owns the relationship of the client, and therefore the subcontractor never gets to contact or build trust directly with the ultimate client. If that is the case, then the issue is, who is your client? In the second case, your client is the firm who's hiring you. So build value for them, be responsive, be trustworthy. Like John is saying, be on time, right? And on time doesn't mean you show up to meetings on time. It also means you deliver on time. Do all those things that are trustworthy, and know that in this particular case, if you're not sitting in front of the ultimate client for which you're developing the work, your client are the folks who hire you, the decision makers who have an opportunity to hire you again. All right. Thank you. It's incredible that we're almost up with our 15 minutes. So a couple of thoughts before we leave today. One is, if you haven't added Monday Live to your calendars, please add davidafields.com/Monday Live. It will bring you to whatever the correct link is for our next LinkedIn Live session. And until we post that link, it will let you see the recording of the previous one. So add it on your calendar, whatever your time zone is, so that you can be with us on Mondays at 12:15 Eastern. The second request is, if you haven't already, please connect with David and with myself on LinkedIn. And the third one is subscribe to the articles that are published every Wednesday. They're filled with tactical, practical solutions, a lot of richness, not only in the articles, but also in the comments. So join us there as well by subscribing to the articles. And thank you for coming today. Thank you for joining us. Our business is really about delivering value to our clients, about making our clients' life better. And part of that is creating a life that's better for all of us as well. So keep that in mind as you go through your week, and please send us your questions. Bye. Thank you.